Let me just ask you a question. Here's a simple question. If your cell phone was taken away and all of your devices for 24 hours, how would you do? How would you feel? Most people in the world who are connected through their devices would feel terrible, devastated. Virtually all people below the age of 35 would feel nauseous and sick. And virtually all people below the age of 20 actually would border on breakdown and intense nervousness, right, and anxiety. Let me ask you a question. Why would that be true? Why would that be true? Where did your inner self go to? Where did my inner self go to? Where was our attention stolen away to? Who is it? Right? What is the force in the world that actually entered into the interior of you and recast your own interior experience without your permission? There are creeping annexations of our very personhood, creeping annexations of what it means at the very core to be a human being. And we barely notice they're happening until they're upon us and we're trapped on the inside. Everything is determined by the system, right? And the system is driven by, right, big tech, which we might call big brother or big other, right? Which is absorbing your information by giving you all these little apps, then creating a personality profile, then nudging your action, undermining any sense of free will, undermining the individual, and beginning to actually create this hive intelligence, this hive of humanity, this machine hive. A human being becomes a cog, a computational digital object. We actually cease to view the human being, right, as human, because we don't actually have a story of what it means to be a human being. Our essential humanity depends on us having a self-understanding, right? We need an answer to the question of, who am I? And who are we? And who are we together? And what's the relationship of the I to the we? We're actually left with a Tech Plex, right, whose intent is to actually extract from us information that's then sold to third parties who are misaligned with us in order to manipulate our decision-making process. That is what's called today the nervous system of the planet. That's the Tech Plex. And it upgrades constantly machine intelligence and constantly downgrades human beings. No one understands that big tech and big data are operating from a particular narrative of self, which I would call the social self. The social self, as expressed by data science, says that human beings are the sum total of their measurable actions, and we can get enough data about a human being to predict how they will act given particular stimuli, in accordance not with your own interior value, because you're not given enough inward space to discover that, but in accordance with the agendas of whoever has bought the information about you, who's now using split test proven methods to manipulate you. Right? That's the social self that's illegitimate. The social self. The entire web, right, is based as a reflection on the partial narrative of self that animates big tech and big data, right? Social self. right, this failure of narrative is leading to not just the death of humanity, which is the first form of existential risk, but the death of our humanity, which is the second form, right? Not that human beings will disappear, but will stop being human. So the very fact that you can't disconnect, right? You're 35 years old, you can't disconnect from your iPhone, and you've got all these ads coming at you all the time, right? And you're completely sucked in, right, to how many likes you got, right, and how much approval you got, and how many thumbs up and how many thumbs down, right? And you feel actually nervous and filled with anxiety disconnecting from your device. That's already the beginning of your dehumanizing, right? You're no longer just a human being. You're actually, you and your device are actually one. Do you get it? You and your device are one. And then you go from holdables, you're holding your device, to wearables. Wearables are just beginning around the world. And wearables, right, is when your device, right, you wear either a biometric sensor on the outside, a biometric sensor on the inside, and in which we actually begin to track. You begin to track everything. And these biometric sensors, right, combined with your smartphone and your smart thermostat and your smart bed, that's called the Internet of Things. And the most potent response we have is to actually feeling the evolutionary impulse moving through us. Speak as the leading edge of evolution and tell a new story, not a made-up story, right? We've actually spent, 25, 30 years trying to work through, right, and integrating the deepest structural insights, interior insights, and exterior insights of all of the great traditions of pre-modernity, all the great understandings and insights and sciences of modernity, all of the wisdom of the best parts of post-modernity. We bring it all together and we weave it together in a seamless embrace, a new story. First principles and first values. And first principles and first values that are not subject to commodification. First principles and first values are lifeblood. There are the axioms. They're the premises on which we live. They're the self-evident truths, right, that define our humanity. Tragedy comes, right, from these partial, fragmented, fractured notions of self. Hyper-social self moves into kind of a hyper-collectivism. Social self is true, but partial. We actually have a vision. It's a revolutionary vision, which is we want to actually enter into the source code of what's happening, understand it, diagnose it, because diagnosis is the first stage to being able to transform, to heal. So we need accurate diagnosis, and then we need to articulate the new set of memes, right? The new story, right? That actually becomes the animating plot line, right? Of a global ethos for a global civilization. But it's gotta be soaked, rooted, intoxicated, right? With the very heart of cosmos itself, which is heart, which is feeling. The universe feels. The universe feels love. And the universe doesn't feel ordinary love. The universe feels eros, right? Outrageous love. And outrageous love is not ordinary love. Outrageous love is not mere human sentiment, right? Outrageous love is not a strategy between two separate self egos. Outrageous love is the current of reality itself. It's the heart of existence itself. Outrageous love is the eros. Reality is eros, and eros has expressions as intimacy and as desire and as uniqueness, radical uniqueness, and as creativity and as personhood. And it's an amorous cosmos. It's an intimate universe. right? Unique self is this unique incarnation of amor, of the love intelligence. And we're not alone in the cosmos. We're held by the divine. We're held by the infinity of intimacy. Right? Our unique selves all together are faces, right, of the larger field of love intelligence, right? The larger integrated oneness, right? The unified field of the whole thing, of which we're all individuated and gorgeous pieces beyond imagination. We're not alone. And unique self means you are an irreducibly unique expression of the love intelligence and love beauty that is the animating energy and eros of all that is, that lives in you, as you, and through you, that never was, is, or will be ever again other than through you. And as such, you have an irreducibly unique perspective and an irreducibly unique quality of intimacy that come together to forge your unique capacity to give your unique gift and your unique circle of intimacy and influence. And your gift is needed by all that is. And by giving your gift, you are playing your instrument in the unique self symphony. No, we say to the Tech Plex, we're not merely part of a social hive superorganism. So much more. We're irreducibly gorgeous, unique configurations of eros, intimacy, and desire. We are unique selves. We're moved by the vocational arousal to respond to the call. We're personally addressed by cosmos itself. We're needed by all that is. That idea will change the world. We have to download that narrative of identity based on the human being as a unique configuration of evolutionary love into the Tech Plex itself, and herein lies our future. We have to actually redefine social media. We have to actually use social media at this time. We've got to use it wisely. Use it wisely, right? To actually use it, right? To expand and step out of the hook, right? We've got to use it to actually spread these visions, right? But to actually liberate ourselves from its entrapment. A planetary awakening in evolutionary love through unique self-symphonies in which each person knows I've got a song to sing, I've got a poem to write, I've got a way of being, laughing, loving in the world that's uniquely mine and that's needed by all that is. Let every child know this. Let every human being be animated. Let our hearts and souls dance to this inner gorgeous truth of reality, which blows us open with joy, with purpose, with eros, with invitation. This is an incredibly urgent, ecstatic invitation, right, to actually be revolutionaries, to stand in the breach and say, let there be light, let there be self. And we have not yet begun to fight. We have not yet begun to love, right? We have not yet begun to pray, right? We have not yet begun to come together as unique self-symphony, right? In which the cacophony of human voices coming together, in which no human voice is lost and every human being merges together in this larger explosion of outrageous love. That's a force that can sweep away all tyrannies, whether they're ostensibly benign tyrannies with smiles on their faces or the more overt forms. Right, but our commitment is to actually articulate the core structures of the Tao, right? The way, right? Not of one religion, not of one system of psychology, but the implicit premises of human beings, the interior intelligence of divinity animated through human beings, right? The evolutionary impulse and all of its wonder and beauty and poignancy animated through human beings. We're here to integrate the best of that knowing of what it means to be a baby-faced divine, a human being animated by first principles and first values.